Okay, Unit 5 review, linear functions and equations. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line. So there's a line, we have to write the input-output relationship using y equals mx plus b. Okay, so remember what m and b represent. M is the slope of the line, and b is the y-intercept of the line where it crosses the y-axis. So here's my y-axis. And it crosses the y-intercept right there, and that's at positive 1. So 1 is your y-intercept. Now the slope, remember what a slope is. It's the rise over the run. So I go find a point, go to the right, don't go to the left, go over here. Right there. So we have a rise of 3, positive 3, and a run of 2. So it's 3 over 2. Okay. So y equals 3 over 2x plus 1. Okay. Next one, same idea. Now we're expecting a negative slope because the line's moving the other way. Okay, so m, b. Okay, so m is the slope, and b is our y-intercept. So a slope is rise over run. First, let's get the y-intercept, though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So positive 6. If it's down there, it's negative. So 6. Then right there would be my another point. So the rise is negative 2, and the run is 3. So negative 2/3 would be your rise over run. So it's y equals negative 2/3 x plus 6. Okay, now we see the equations. Now we have to graph them. So y equals negative 2x plus 3. So this is already in y's by itself. So we have it's in mx plus b form right there. So I know the slope and y-intercept just by looking at it. So the slope is negative 2. And the y-intercept is positive 3. Now you're going to want to make your slope into a fraction ratio by putting a 1 under it. So on the y-axis I go to positive 3. So 1, 2, 3. Then the slope we go down 2, right 1. Okay, from this point. So down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. Of course you could keep doing that. Now you need to take your ruler and make it a continuous function. Okay, and every point on the line represents numbers I could put in for x where I can get the y output. So for example, this would be 2, negative 1, so it means if you put 2 in for x, you get negative 1 as the output. Okay, next problem, 2x plus 4y equals 12. Okay, so now we have to get the y by itself. We need to get y by itself into y equals mx plus b form. Okay. So it's multiplied by positive 4, so we can put a check. We don't have to do we don't have to change all the terms to the opposite because we already have positive 4 on the y. Now take out your 2x by subtracting 2x, then make a 0x because it can't go with 12. We need to put an x, so I subtract 2x, and you have 4 times y. And then remember, it's x comes first, so you need to put your x first. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And then add your 12. Okay. Now, you divide every term by 4, and that includes the x and the constant. Okay, so negative 2 divided by 4. I'm pretty sure that's a decimal, and it is. So second PRB that, negative 1/2. So negative 1/2 x, that's your m. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3, and that's your b. So now you have your equation. Slope, y-intercept. So the slope would be negative 1/2, and the y-intercept would be positive 3. So on the y-axis, you go to positive 3, 1, 2, 3. Then rise over run, so it'd be negative 1, right 2. So I go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2. Then every point on that line represents an xy combination that satisfies the equation, that makes the equation work. Remember to connect them, put arrows on both ends, okay? Now these next two are pretty easy. You're missing one of the variables. So in this you're missing the x. So if we're missing the x variable, this is known as a constant. So I'm not looking for the MB. What I want to do to graph a constant equation is to make three coordinates. And y is constantly at 2, so all the y's I fill in with 2's, and then x can be anything I want, but let's keep it simple, 1, 2, 3. Now remember, this is x, this is y. So you're going to go right 1, up 2. 2, 2, right 2, up 2. Back to the middle, right 2, up 2. Then right 3, up 2. So 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And it's a straight, flat, horizontal line. That has a slope of 0, so that's why you don't really worry about the slope. Okay, now in number 6, we have another, we're missing the y. Okay, so it's another constant, but the line's going to be kind of turned on sideways. Okay, and you'll see why here. So now it's the x that has the constant value, -4. So put -4 in for all of the x's, and then y can be whatever you want. So 1, 2, 3. Now this is x, left, right. This is y, up and down. So since x is -4, we're going to go left 4, up 1. Then left 4, up 2. Left 4, up 3. Okay. There we have it. It's a straight vertical line that has that slope's called undefined. Okay, now we got blank pages on the next one. Now on 6, write an equation of the line with the following characteristics on 6 through 9, not 6 through 10. That should have said 6 through 9. Okay, now we don't see the graph, but they tell us things about the graph that we need to construct the equation. So all these problems are y equals mx plus b, and we have to find the m and the b. So m is our slope, and b is our y-intercept. Now this one, they tell us the slope, okay, is -1/2. So that's good. Now, to find the b, we have to use this coordinate point. When x is 2 in this equation, y has to be an output of -2. So we're finding the b that would make that happen. So we find that with y equals m times x plus b. And we substitute values for y, m, and x. Leave the b. So -1/2 is your m. And then -2 is going to replace the y. And +2 is going to replace the x. So you got -2, b plus. -1/2 times 2 is -1. So it's b plus -1, and then you get b by itself. So you add 1 to both sides, and then -1 is equal to b. Okay, if you want to test your answer, you can take -1/2 times, put 2 in for x, and plus the -1, and the output should be -2, which it is. So I know that that is correct. Okay, now we got to write equation of a line that passes through the points when x equals 2, y equals 1, when x equals 5, y equals -8. So they give me two solutions instead of the slope in a solution. So y equals, lay it out. Okay, so m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Now they didn't tell us the slope, but we don't have a graph to look at to do the rise over run. So what rise really is, it's how the y changes, divide over what the x changes, which is y minus y, x minus x. Okay. Okay, so I look at my x's. We're going to start with this one because that has a higher x. So put your -8 over your 5, and then put your 1 over your 2. Okay. So if you're on a number line and you're at -8 and you go 1 to the left, you'd be at -9. 5 minus 2 is 3. Then I divide -9 by 3, and that's -3. So -3 is your m. Now you got to find the b that makes these equations, will make some work. Y equals m times x plus b. So m is -3. then negative 8 is y. And you can use this or this. I'll use negative 8 for y and 5 for x. So b plus negative 3 times 5 gives me a product of negative 15. Then you need to add your 15 to both sides. So negative 8 plus 15 is 7. 7 is equal to b. Now if you want to check your answer, negative 3 times 2 plus 7, I should get an output of 1. Negative 3 times 5 plus 7, I should get an output of negative 8. I did. Okay. Now, 8 and 9, we're trying to accomplish the same thing. We need to write an equation that's parallel to the line y equals 3x plus 2, and my line equation also has to be when x is 1, y is 3. So I lay out my equation. We have to find our m and our b. Now remember, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Now to find the slope in a parallel equation, you have to have the same m that is in the equation here. So y is by itself, mx plus b. Get rid of 2. So if the m is 3 here, it has to be 3 here. Okay, they have to have the same m. Now, we also know that when x is 1, y has to be 3, so we have to find the b that makes that happen. You don't care about the plus 2, that is irrelevant. Okay, so my m is 3, and then 3 is y, and 1 is x. 3 times 1 is 3, then you minus 3 from both sides, and 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, so I get 0. When you can leave it like that. When you have a plus 0, really, you don't really have a b, and it's just y equals 3x, but it's up to you. If you keep the plus 0 there, that's cool. Okay, now perpendicular. Remember, parallel lines means they don't cross. They never cross. They just run sideways right beside each other. Now perpendicular, they cross, but they form a 90-degree angle. Okay. So they're not going to be the same m. Okay, they do have a relationship. Now perpendicular means you need to flip the m and also make it the opposite sign. So in the equation I'm given, it's y equals mx plus b. I don't need the minus 1 for anything. I need to flip that to 2 over 1, and if this is positive, mine has to be negative. Now if you have a 1 in the denominator, just put it in as negative 2. And then of course, I know that in my equation, when x is negative 2, y has to be 3. Okay, so my m value is negative 2. Don't use the 1/2. That's done. Negative 2. Then 3 is y. Negative 2 is x. So 3b plus. Negative 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, then you subtract 4 from both sides, and you end up with negative 1. Y equals negative 2x plus negative 1. Now, we have a couple graphs on the next page, but they're not lines. Remember, the absolute value makes a V shape, and it's going to be a V shape here. Now, the middle of the V, where the graph changes direction, is known as your vertex. Okay. Now, two ways you can think about it. The one most people like is opposite of H, they know as your X, and then K would be your Y. Now inside the absolute value is where the H is at, and if you don't have anything, you add a 0. So you got H and K. Okay, so 0 doesn't really have an opposite, so that would stay at 0, and then K is 3. So you can find it like that, or you can just take the inside of your absolute value from the original, set it equal to 0. So X is 0, and then we have a 3 out there. Okay. Because a low point, any absolute value changes direction when it becomes 0. Okay, so 0, 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, K values move the V up and down. Then you go both ways, okay? Okay, now you need to identify the domain and range, okay? Domain's all, and then the range, you put your y value, you circle that. So on the y-axis, where's that point at? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so y has a value of 3. And then from that 3, it goes up. So it goes up from there, so greater than or equal to. right, next one, another absolute value. Okay, so vertex, opposite of h, and then k. Now, inside the absolute value, we have a -4, so that's your h, and then the k we don't have, so we add a 0 there. So opposite of -4 would be 4, because 4 minus 4 is 0, and then you'd have an output of 0, because that's your k. Okay, so you go right 4, and then that's it. You don't go up or down. See, here you don't go right or left, but you go up 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you stay right there. Now the h is moved it side to side. Okay. Okay. Now domain is all, and in the range you put your y. And here's my y-axis. So where's that vertex at? Well, it's right in the middle of the y-axis, so then y would be 0 at that point. And then from there you're going up again, so it would be greater than or equal to. Okay. So inside the absolute value is h, outside's k, opposite of h, k. Okay. Opposite of h, k. Remember, so this would just be up 3, this would be right 4. Okay, now story problems. A computer repair service charges $50 for diagnosis. Diagnosis means they tell you what's wrong with it. They also charge $35 per hour for repairs. Write an equation in slope-intercept form that relates the two units. Use it to find how many hours it will take for the total cost to reach $172.50. Okay. Okay, so you got dollars and hours as your units. So hours is X, dollars is Y. So per, dollars per hour. So dollars per hour is 35. 35 times X. So we know what the slope is. So hours and dollars. So when you know what the slope is, you want to go 0, 1, 2, then block it. Because you know before $35 you started at 50, and then every hour you're adding the slope, 35. Every time this increases by 1, this increases by 35. So 85, 120, and I need to find out when we're at 172.50 for the hours. Okay. Okay, so you have 50 to start with, then you add your slope, 35 times x, and then you just write the equation. 50 plus 35 times x equals y. Then $172.50 goes in for the y. Okay, now you get x by itself, so you have to subtract a 50. That's going to be 122.5 when you subtract. Then you need to divide by 35, and that takes you right to the answer. $3.5, okay. So it's going to take 3.5 hours to get to a cost of $172.50. Okay, now the next one. An airplane is descending. That means it's going down towards the ground in a linear path. That means it's like this. After 2 minutes, the plane is 29,000 feet above the ground. After 5 minutes, the plane is 27,500 feet above the ground. How many minutes will it take the plane to descend, sorry about the spelling, from its initial height to its landing? Okay, so you have minutes and feet. X being the minutes, Y being the feet. So my feet per minute, I don't know that, so I just put M. So then to make your table with an M, okay, you go minutes and feet. 0, now you can't go to 1, 2, so you block it, and then put 2 minutes with 29,000 feet, 5 minutes with 27,500 feet, and then 0 feet right there. And I'm going to put a question mark. All right, now, clearly this started up higher than 27,000, so that's your B. So I go and construct my line, but instead of knowing what the slope is, we start with B, that's a y-intercept, plus M times X, okay? It's like y equals M times X plus B. So we got to find the M and B values. So I come over here and find the M by taking y minus y, x minus x. It's the change in the feet divided by the change in the minutes. Okay, so we're going to start here, 27,505, and then 29,002. So I subtract here, that's negative 1,500, and I subtract here, you get 3. Now divide that, you get negative 500. So you need to have your M as negative 500. You can't forget that it's negative, or this is going to give you a screwy answer, okay? Negative 500. Because it's going down, it should be a negative slope. Okay, then B is y equals M times X plus B. So B is the beginning where the feet started at. So negative 500 is your M. Then for your X and Y substitution, you can just go 29,000. So 29,000 is your Y. And then 2 is your X. So you have 29,000. B plus, and then negative 500 multiplied by 2 is negative 100. Then you got to add 100 to your 29,000. Or add 1,000, excuse me. Negative 500 times 2 is 1,000, my bad. So add 1,000, and that's 30,000 equals B. Remember, 30,000 isn't your answer. That just tells you where you started at. And then the negative 500 means this would go down 500 if this went by ones, okay? Okay, so your equation's 30,000 plus negative 500 times X equals Y. And then, of course, the 0 is substituted for the Y variable. So 30,000 plus negative 500 times X equals 0. Now you got to get the X by itself. You're going to subtract 30,000. Negative 500 times X equals negative 30,000. Then you divide by negative 500 on both sides. And X is going to equal 60. So that would be 60 minutes to get to the ground, 0 feet. I mean, it's quite a ways to 5 to 60, but it's also quite a ways from 27,500 to 0. Okay, now for the last one. The table shows a balance of a student's bank account at various times. So week 0, weeks is X, and then the balance is Y. Make a scatter plot for the data and draw a trend line. So you can see it's trending upwards, so the slope's going to be positive. Okay, so this is my X, this is weeks, and this is balance, account balance. So first graph it, you're going 0 to 9. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay. Now the balance, let's start at 10s, please. Okay, because it'd be stupid to start lower than 10 because 15 is the lowest. And let's go up by 20 so then we can ensure we get to the 136. So it'd be 30, 50, 70, 90, 110, 130, 150, and that's good. Now I start graphing. 0, 15, that would be right in there. 135, somewhere in there. 368, so it skips over 2. You don't have a 2 value, which is okay. 485, so 485. 7, 105. And then 9, 136. Now you draw your trend line. Remember, you want to set your ruler on the y-intercept with the first point and just draw a flow line. It should flow with the points, not going to cross them all. Something like that. Yours is going to look different than mine. Now, write an equation for a line. So you want to lay out the y equals mx plus b equation. And m's your slope, and B is your y-intercept. We're not going to do the extrapolation where you have to use it to answer a question at the end. So you're going to make your table. So X is weeks, Y is dollars, and everybody should be using the first point because that's your B. Okay? Then you don't have to do the Y equals MX plus B stuff. Sorry. Okay. Now, so to find your M, you need 2 points closer. I'm going to go above the 3 and the 4, so 368 and 485. Okay, and then Y minus Y, X minus X, because it's rise over run, but it's a change in the money over the change in the weeks. So it'd be 85 over 4, and then 68 over 3. So that would be 17 over 1, which is 17. And of course, we don't have to do Y equals M times X plus B, because B is 15. Okay? So what that means is you started at $15, and then you're going up by approximately a best guess of $17 per week.